It's always nice to have strong voices with us, but everybody's voice is equally valued. All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm Megan Rancier. I will be leading today's service. Lisa and Steve are providing technical assistance, thank you. Laura is also providing musical assistance today. So thank you to all of you. Please be aware we are recording this service and it will be posted on our YouTube page. But for privacy, we do not record or post joys and concerns. Also, we save announcements for the end of the service after extinguishing the chalice. We greet you today as you join us in a wider search for truth and purpose. In this quest, may we encounter one another with open hearts and minds. May we inspire each other to consider new questions and seek deeper meaning. And may we cultivate wisdom and compassion. Let all who enter this place see a welcome face, hear a kind word, and find comfort in this community. May all that we do and say here today help us to be a force for positive change in the world. I'm scanning the audience for new faces, and I see mainly familiar faces. Maybe folks who haven't been here for a while, but okay, I'll just read the little blurb here for those of you who are new to us or have returned to us. Please note we are a diverse group with wide variety of interests and beliefs, and therefore our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to attend or view several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. And if you want to receive our weekly email of MVUUC news, please write your contact information on the blue information card found on the pocket, in the pocket on the back of the chairs. Yes, thank you, Buffy. Yes, thank you, Kevin. And you can leave those filled out cards on the greeting table out in the front in the social hall. So everybody, please take a minute to greet your neighbors. Oh. All right, so the chalice will be lit today by Demetrius Ingram. Thank you for jumping in at the last minute. So please join me in reading the words provided for the lighting of the chalice. Here we go. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones, and in the stillness of this hour, may we sense it calling our name. Thank you, Demetrius. Now is the time for sharing of joys, concerns, and milestones. Lisa, if you could please stop the recording of the service. And before we have our first musical selection, for a while we were doing breathing music with Ted, and after we're going to have a 1-minute meditation, and then we'll sing a song.
Well, I can do some breathing.
That would be fantastic, but we have a video. Thank you for offering. Yes, yeah, and we do sometimes do stuff like that on the fly, yeah. So I was thinking, especially with possible pre-election jitters, there is a lot of anxiety in the air. And then, of course, we have our own personal joys and sorrows that we are dealing with. I thought it might be nice for us to just have a moment together to breathe, to meditate if you like, and just to reflect. And we have some autumnal sounds to accompany your breathing. All right. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to get outside and do your meditation to some real wind in the trees, I encourage everybody to try to do that as we have this lovely fall weather. So now let's sing together. Our first hymn of the day is Here We Have Gathered. This is hymn number 360 in your gray hymnals. And if you wouldn't mind, please stand as you are willing and able. Boom. Excellent. Thank you. If we don't press the stop button, the piano just keeps on going, and so, yeah. All right, our opening words for today are called Meeting What Arrives by Linda Susan Ulrich. There once was a man who decided to become a Buddhist monk. Upon entering the monastery, he made a vow not to leave until he had learned something significant enough so that he could teach it to others to relieve their suffering. Finally, after 30 years, he announced that it was time for him to go. The important lesson? Meet what arrives. So that was a Buddhist parable retold by the author, Linda Susan Ulrich, and then they continue. They say, I had a chance to practice meeting what arrives under very different circumstances than a monastery. I was driving on the highway behind a giant truck hauling dirt. The reason I knew what it was carrying is that the black tarp on top wasn't secured. It kept flapping so much that I could tell it might fly off at any moment. But I drew on my practice of staying present and stayed aware of the tarp, the other cars around me, and my speedometer. Sure enough, as the highway went uphill and around a curve, the plastic sheet came undone, floated upward for a second, and billowed right toward me. In that moment, I was completely calm. It was like time had elongated. I was present to notice how beautifully and elegantly the material caught the air, flowing like a dancer's skirt. I could tell it was going to land across my windshield and cover my view. So I decided to keep driving and see what would happen. Right after it covered me, it got pulled into the slipstream and whipped over the car. When I looked in the rearview mirror, the sheet had dropped to the ground, no longer a danger. About 10 seconds later, I found myself shaken by the experience. A combination of adrenaline and, oh my God, did that just happen? Careening around my nervous system. And yet, I recognized that if I'd seized up with fear and slammed on my brakes instead of meeting what actually arrived, I could have gotten seriously hurt. Reverend Dr. Samuel Wells notes that the ability to act from presence and instinct is the goal of theological ethics. To be so present in the moment and so steeped in our spiritual values, beliefs, and aspirations that we act from that place without needing to think about it. It's no longer what we do, it's who we are. This is a moment when those of us living in the US must ask ourselves who we are as a country. More than that, how can we become something better, especially for those struggling on the margins? Staying present to what's real, our world, our hope, our stories, can help us embody our values, whatever comes our way. So, we're going to move into our reflection now, which is not something I'm going to read. Today's reflection actually comes to us from Reverend Laura Shennum. She's the Minister of Congregational Life at the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco. It is titled, Invitation to Participate in the Democratic Process. Use your voice, yes. In part of the sermon, she's going to talk about UU the Vote. And in case you've never heard about UU the Vote, this is an organization dedicated to bringing our democratic values to life in the crucial struggle to build a genuine multiracial democracy. So here is Reverend Laura Shennum.
The first time I participated in the democratic process, I was in the 3rd grade. Our teacher handed out the weekly reader. How many people remember the weekly reader? It had the ballot for the 1980 presidential election. The candidates were Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. I remember reading the paragraph of facts about each candidate and looking at their pictures. And I thought to myself, Ronald Reagan looks like a kind grandpa and he likes jelly beans. That's my pick. I proudly marked the box and handed it in. The teacher tallied the vote and Reagan was the clear winner. Then a few short days later, the nation voted and their pick for president again was Reagan. I felt so proud of that process and being a part of it. And a kind grandpa who loves jelly beans was going to be the president. I have since learned it takes a lot more than just being a kind grandpa that looks like a kind grandpa and loving jelly beans to be in the highest office in our country. However, since that participation and the process of voting and seeing it ripple through our country so quickly was a memory that was deeply ingrained in me. What's your first memory of participating in democracy? Was it when you got to register to vote? When you got to go to the ballot box and cast your vote? I love the ease of the mail-in vote, but there is nothing more affirming than walking into a polling place, stepping into that booth and casting your vote. I remember taking my small children, and as they danced around my legs and did all the stuff that small children did, mommy, all of that stuff, and I'm sitting there trying to cast my vote. Those are the days. And I loved getting the sticker afterwards, right? The I voted sticker. And I wasn't going to give it to any of my kids. I got extra ones for them because I was proud of that sticker. It's easy to forget the privilege we have to vote for what is important in our country, whether it be issues or candidates. That we actually have a say in how and who runs our country is foundational to what it means to live in the United States. To know our country was created with the core values of democracy at its center, and to know that some of the founding fathers were Unitarian, Universalist, or as we might sometimes say, Unitarian, Universalist adjacent. It's something to remember and ground ourselves in as we think about how we want to participate in this election season. What are those core values of democracy, and how do they align with our Unitarian Universalist values? And then what do they call us to do? These democratic core values that I'm about to name were identified by Learning to Give, which is an organization that helps youth determine how to identify what they care about and how they can contribute their time, talent, and treasure to that cause. The list they created came from looking at the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and other significant documents and speeches of our nation. There are 10. I want you to listen to these core democratic values and think about how they're being lifted up or maybe suppressed in our current society. Number 1, life. Each citizen has the right to the protection of their life. Number 2, liberty. Liberty includes the freedom to believe what you want, freedom to choose your own friends and to have your own ideas and opinions, to express your ideas in public, the right for people to meet in groups, and the right to have any lawful job or business. Number 3, pursuit of happiness. Each citizen can find their happiness in their own way, so long as they do not step on the rights of others. Number 4, justice. All people should be treated fairly in getting advantages and disadvantages of our country. No group or person should be favored. Number 5, common good. Citizens should work together for the good of all. The government should make laws that are good for everyone. 6, equality. Everyone should get the same treatment regardless of where their grandparents or parents were born, their race, their religion, or how much money they have. Citizens all have political, social, and economic equality. Number 7, truth. The government and citizens should not lie. Number 8, diversity. Differences in language, dress, food, where parents or grandparents were born, race, and religion are not only allowed, but accepted as important. Number 9, popular sovereignty. The power of the government comes from the people, not from a person. And number 10, patriotism. This means having a devotion to our country and the core democratic values in what we say and in what we do. I don't know about you, but it seems many of these are not at the core of what we see happening in our society today. We have laws to ban trans people and the care that they need, to limit the decisions of women about their bodies, to limit the books that we're even able to read, that our children and youth have access to, and laws to even threaten the very right to vote. We know fear and intimidation are happening all over this country, challenging the very right of protection of people's lives. And we definitely have heard the lies that have caused those threats to manifest. When we look at our Unitarian Universalist values centered in love, of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, equity, and generosity, we can see easily how they align with those core values of democracy, as well as how they expand them. This is where the efforts of the UU the Vote are grounded. I was fascinated when I heard from the former UUA president, Susan Frederick Gray, when she first launched the UU the Vote initiative. She made a bold statement saying they were going to reach 1 million people that year. Those who signed on to the effort took a big gulp of apprehension when the declaration was made, because she didn't consult anybody else. She just made this declaration. We're going to reach 1 million people in this year. Then at the end of that year, they actually reached 3 million people. They did it through postcards, phone banks, text messages, and so much more. Remember, this was in 2020 in the midst of the COVID pandemic. And then in 2022, the midterm elections, UU the Vote launched the next set of action steps. This time, UUs were not only writing letters, making phone calls, and texting, but they were knocking on doors, giving people rides to the polls, monitoring the polls. In Arizona, there was a UU band called Benji's Band that showed up at the polls and played while people waited in long lines. There was a 10% increase in participation at that poll. Then when it got late and there was a mom with her kids waiting, the mom thing, UU volunteers got pizza for her kids so they were able to be fed and taken care of so she could be able to stay in that line and cast her vote. In this election season, we need to show up just as boldly because even more is at stake. So how do we do this? Some of you are already doing this by writing those letters and helping pay for the postage. Thank you for your offering today. If you're willing to be called on if we need more funds for stamps, then please let Cal know after the service or let me know. Well, make sure you vote and educate yourself about issues and candidates and who you're voting for. In doing research for this sermon, I came across a challenge that several faith traditions have for their congregations. These weren't UU congregations, by the way. They were challenging their congregations to be a 100% voting congregation. I wonder if we can make that pledge. Can we do that? Can 100% of us go out and vote and participate? I ask you to use your wisdom and reason in making sure when you see stories on social media or in other spaces that you check the sources before you share it or promote it. We need to make sure we are elevating the truth and using our critical thinking. It is easy to get caught up in stories that promote a dramatic response, and they are also dangerous, as we've seen play out in Ohio in this past week. We need to be in the place, as Michelle Obama said recently at the Democratic National Convention, to conquer the demons of fear, division, and hate. We are called through our UU values to do this and more. Most importantly, we have covenanted to build and sustain fully inclusive communities. I think late Congressman John Lewis summed it up the best when he said, "We may have come here on different ships, but we are all in the same boat now. So it doesn't matter if we're Black or white, Latinos, Asian Americans, or Native American, gay or straight, we are one people, we are one family, and we all live in the same house." This means we are called just as equally not to vilify or demonize others. We are called to step into relationships, to find common good, and to see the humanity in each other, even when we disagree. Oprah Winfrey, in her DNC convention speech, reminds us we are called to do hard work and heart work. Instead of finding ways to build a metaphorical fence, we need to find ways to connect and set politics aside. Because one thing I know, no matter what happens on election day, we still have to live together the next day, the next weeks, the next months, and the next years. And we still have to live into the core values of democracy and our UU values. Until we figure out how to be what Michelle Obama calls the antidote to fear and division, we will continue to have work to do within ourselves and within our communities. And we can do that if we honor the power we have collectively, stretch ourselves in our actions, be present in our values, make a deep commitment to one another and our neighbors, and elevate the truth. Please elevate the truth. Most importantly, as we know from a deep-rooted sense of being a part of this community, we don't have to do it alone. So I have one question for you. What is the invitation you hear to show up boldly, rooted in your Unitarian Universalist values, to participate in the democratic process? Amen.
Thank you to Reverend Shennum. And obviously, when she said that we saw fear and division in Ohio in recent weeks, she was talking about the talk about Haitian immigrants. And this is this was recorded shortly after that had happened. Okay, so moving on, let's reinforce some of the ideas from our reflection today by singing hymn number 134, Our World is One World. Please stand if you are willing and able, but it is always optional. But yeah, hymn number 134. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. And now we're going to pass our offertory basket, and today's collection is a little bit different because the money that is collected during today's offertory is going to be donated to UU the Vote. If you would rather your contribution counts toward your annual pledge, please make sure that you put it in an envelope with your name on it so that we can credit it to you. Otherwise, we will send the baskets around. And if you use PayPal to make a contribution today and you want that contribution to go to UU the Vote, please select that from the drop-down menu, offertory donation rather than annual pledge. And to accompany our collection, we have a song that was inspired by UU the Vote and is called We Shall Be Known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time. By the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Yay. I love when everybody joins in. Thanks for that. And thank you for your contributions. This is really meaningful and helpful toward advancing the work of You, the Vote. Okay. So our closing words today are called Let Love Lead, written by D.L. Helfer. And I know I'm not a minister, but this poem kind of takes the form of a prayer. So if you would like to close your eyes, if you would like to meditate during this poem, feel free. Spirit of all that moves among us and through us, as elections near, help us to let love lead. Help us recognize that polarization can also be understood as passion. Passion to build something better that holds all of us at the center. Help us to imagine and to foster a world in which we listen more than we talk, where our priority is to learn as much as we teach. A world in which we find ways to connect across the chasms of difference, making space for revelation to emerge. Spirit of love, help us turn toward love with this world, with each other, with ourselves, all the same thing at its core. Let us extend grace within our movements and between our movements, less sure, more curious, wondering together what is possible. Spirit of all that is open and hopeful, guide us in building a larger tent, not solely Republican or Democrat, independent or uncommitted. Let us learn too from our ancestors, from generational pain and generational survival, the movement of generations building across difference, something better, larger, more encompassing, that can hold us all. Let us be not just flags, potent though they are in declaring our beliefs, and yet impeding our ability to recognize humanity across differences. Spirit of hope, Spirit of all that is yet possible, lead us away from the false separation that the only truth is ours, that anything less is incomplete. Lead us instead into the discomfort of learning from youth, young adults, activists, elders, those we cherish, those we find wanting. Lead us to the love that holds us all and is with us always, the love that can help us through the messy and necessary life-altering work of building movements across beliefs, across difference, for change that can endure. May it be so. And now let's extinguish our chalice. Please join me in reading the words provided. Let us continue to grow as citizens of our communities, our nation, and our world. Let us work to build the common good for ourselves and the generations to come. May it be so. So now is the time for announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? Lynn, come on up.
I am trying to put together a music committee of people who will kind of determine the future of the music program at MVUUC. And I must say, I love the musical elements that were included in today's service. Boy, somebody is really on the right track here, I think. Okay. Yes, it was wonderful. And so people who are interested in making sure that musically, artistically, our services are fulfilling. We're going to have an organizational meeting next Saturday at 11 o'clock. We hope to meet just for an hour here at the church, 11 o'clock. And I'll be calling some of you that I know are interested in music and personally inviting you to attend this meeting. So 11 o'clock next Saturday. Oh, and I wanted to say, Laura, you may not be aware, but she has been coordinating the music, the hymns, picking the hymns every Sunday and kind of making sure they fit with the topic. And I think helping Tina a little bit with other musical selections. And she stepped in and started doing this a couple months ago. And no one ever said she was doing it or made an announcement, so you might have wondered who was picking all this wonderful music for us to sing. Well, it was Laura. So thank you, Laura.
Hi, I'm Will, and usually there is a person about this tall with white hair and a warm, wonderful face standing next to me when we talk about the Meditation Remembrance Memorial Garden. We were really helped in some ways by the surveys that everybody filled out, and we have more surveys if you didn't get that chance. But as I was saying to Susan a little bit earlier, they really ran in the direction of every box was ticked on the survey form, which, yeah, and Megan used a Sharpie or something, so it was these big X's all the way down the page. It was really wonderful. In fact, I can send you the image of her sheet. No, okay, fine. A little entertainment. So Winnie, who is, I guess, on her way back from Wyoming today, has all the surveys, and we're looking at this next week as a real kind of dig in and get some direction. We can come back to you and let you know where we seem to be headed. But thank you very much, and we look forward to getting moving on the real conceptualization and implementation part of this project.
One thing that has been decided about the music is that we'd like to get the congregation to participate more. And so one of the things we'd like to do, we have all of these wonderful ethnic instruments over here and over here on this table. We would love it if people would come in when they're waiting for the service to start, grab one of those. We're going to be having music going on from about 5 minutes before the service to about 1 minute into past 11. And pick up an instrument and play along. You'll have a lot of fun. And the other announcement is We have potluck today. If you're new here or if you're visiting here, please stay. There's plenty of food. And also, if you would just be patient. People bring cold food and hot food that has to be gotten out of the oven and the refrigerator, and it takes a minute after we get out of here. So don't leave because you don't see the food. Okay, thank you.
I have one announcement from David Love, who is helping to coordinate this year's Thanksgiving dinner here at MVUUC. So that will be happening at 2 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day. David has posted a sign-up sheet in the social hall where people can sign up to bring specific dishes for that dinner if you're planning to be here. His one request is that you plan to cook the food before you get here, because in past years we have had a traffic jam at our one little oven in our kitchen. So you will be asked to cook your food at home and bring it in. But everyone is welcome at that dinner, and yeah, if you're interested, please sign up. And I have one final announcement. This is basically for anybody who is having pre-election anxiety. I don't know if you listen to National Public Radio, but they've actually had a couple of stories this week about ways to alleviate some of your pre-election stress. Today, they actually had an anti-anxiety playlist for election day or after. So I encourage you to look that up. Just Google NPR anti-anxiety playlist. I'll definitely be listening to that this week. Any other announcements? Fantastic. Okay, so after the closing song, we are going to have potluck. So let's sing our closing song. This is a different one, but again, very thematically oriented. So this is called Let Freedom Span Both East and West. It's hymn number 148 in your gray hymnal. And if you are willing and able to stand, you are invited to do so. Here we go. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy potluck. Have a good week. And vote!
Sometimes I'm right, and I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my songs. Butcher, the baker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in.
Sometimes I'm right, I could be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. the butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then it makes no difference what group I'm